We're going to be looking at the themes that are evident in Life of Pi. Number 1, the will to live. Life of Pi is a story about struggling to survive through seemingly insurmountable odds. The shipwrecked inhabitants of the little lifeboat don't simply acquiesce to their fate, they actively fight against it. Pi abandons his lifelong vegetarianism and eats fish to sustain himself. Orange Juice, the peaceful orangutan, fights ferociously against the hyena. Even the severely wounded zebra battles to stay alive. His slow, painful struggle vividly illustrates the sheer strength of his life force. As Martel makes clear in his novel, living creatures will often do extraordinary, unexpected, and sometimes heroic things to survive. However, they will also do shameful and barbaric things if pressed. The hyena's treachery and the blind Frenchman's turn towards cannibalism show just how far creatures will go when faced with the possibility of extinction. At the end of the novel, when Pi raises the possibility that the fierce tiger, Richard Parker, is an aspect of his own personality and that Pi himself is responsible for some of the horrific events he has narrated, the reader is forced to decide just what kinds of actions are acceptable in a life or death situation. Number 2, the importance of storytelling. Life of Pi is a story within a story within a story. The novel is framed by a fictional note from the author, Jan Martel, who describes how he first came to hear the fantastic tale of Piscine Molitor Patel. Within the framework of Martel's narration is Pi's fantastical first-person account of life on the open sea, which forms the bulk of the book. At the end of the novel, a transcript taken from an interrogation of Pi reveals the possible true story within that story, that there were no animals at all, and that Pi had spent those 227 days with other human survivors who all eventually perished, leaving only himself. Pi, however, is not a liar. To him, the various versions of his story each contain a different kind of truth. One version may be factually true, but the other has an emotional or thematic truth that the other cannot approach. Throughout the novel, Pi expresses disdain for rationalists who only put their faith in dry, yeastless factuality. When stories, which can amaze and inspire listeners and are bound to linger longer in the imagination, are, to him, infinitely superior. Storytelling is also a means of survival. The true events of Pi's sea voyage are too horrible to contemplate directly. Any young boy would go insane if faced with the kinds of act Pi indirectly tells his interrogators he has witnessed. By recasting his account as an incredible tale about human-like animals, Pi doesn't have to face the true cruelty human beings are actually capable of. Similarly, by creating the character of Richard Parker, Pi can disavow the ferocious, violent side of his personality that allowed him to survive on the ocean. Even this is not, technically, a lie in Pi's eyes. He believes that the tiger-like aspect of his nature and the civilized, human aspect stand in tense opposition and occasional partnership with one another, just as the boy Pi and the tiger Richard Parker are both enemies and allies. Number 3, the nature of religious belief. Life of Pi begins with an old man in Pondicherry who tells the narrator, "I have a story that will make you believe in God." Storytelling and religious belief are two closely linked ideas in the novel. On a literal level, each of Pi's 3 religions, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam, come with its own set of tales and fables which are used to spread the teachings and illustrate the beliefs of the faith. Pi enjoys the wealth of stories, but he also senses that, as Father Martin assured him was true of Christianity, that each of these stories might simply be aspects of a greater, universal story about love. Stories and religious beliefs are also linked in Life of Pi because Pi asserts that both require faith on the part of the listener or devotee. Surprisingly for such a religious boy, Pi admires atheists. To him, the important thing is to believe in something, and Pi can appreciate an atheist's ability to believe in the absence of God with no concrete proof of that absence. Pi has nothing but disdain, however, for agnostics who claim that it is impossible to know either way and who will therefore refrain from making a definitive statement on the question of God. Pi sees this as evidence of a shameful lack of imagination. To him, agnostics who cannot make a leap of faith in either direction are like listeners who cannot appreciate the non-literal truth a fictional story might provide.